Good morning and welcome to the Bears and Bulls Show, the official coverage of the Philippine Stock Exchange. And today we'll be discussing something relevant. We have seen thousands and thousands of people, even millions of people affected by hurricanes, floods, earthquakes and all. And we are all aware of the climate change. We'll be discussing today the Filipinos and the climate change. We have a very special guest this morning. He's the Executive Director of My Shelter Foundation, MIT graduate, Harvard graduate, none other than Illac Diaz.
Hey, Howell, thank you very much for inviting me here today.
Welcome. You're welcome.
And it's a really important topic. When Ondoy happened, you really saw when the first manifestations of climate change entered into the city. And years ago, in about 4 or 5 years ago, it was really, they were saying, between mitigation, which is lowering your carbon, and that's where a lot of people have been focused on. What's going to happen with the adaptation, which is your country is really I would call it the perfect storm of climate change. You're right next to it. Yeah. And your people are most vulnerable and least able to adapt. How do you make plans for the future ahead? You have to know that the Philippines is one of the top 10 when it comes to the global climate index risk, which is a measure whereby they measure the amount of properties destroyed and the number of people that suffer, both with their lives and, of course, livelihoods. And so we were saying, why are we always reacting to this?
Yes, why are we reacting? Because, you know what, I have a first-hand experience because entire Rizal was submerged in the flood during the time.
And 80% of this, the Metro Manila.
Yes.
But not only that, we have to look at this as, the thing with climate change, it doesn't hit a city. Like a lot of people, you always refer to it as Marikina city, but it hits the whole eastern seaboard of the Philippines. And there's a lot of reported and a lot of underreported. So how do people rise up after the storm? Or even better is, how can people already start having what is called storm lifestyles or flood lifestyles and expect this kind of storms to hit them every year?
Yeah, so how do we do that? So this is the first time I heard of storm lifestyles.
Well, it's true. It's not increasing in numbers. We have 20 every year, 5 of them destructive, and they're becoming more and more intense. And you see this, there's always like the record numbers, the record number of droughts, there's the record number of, of wind velocities, record number of rain. And these are not like subtle measures. These are in your face. You feel it. It affects your family. And the point is, we're always still on the measures whereby segment your trash. I mean, these are good, but you have to separate what is an environmental kind of activity, an awareness kind of activity, which is climate change. Shut off your. You have to already start moving. Is what do we do if we have to already adapt? And a lot of people look at me sometimes and they say, in the organization, and say, isn't that like a cop-out? Isn't that like giving up hope? And I keep on saying, if industrial countries will continue on spewing out carbon in their environment, it only leaves the measure, which is what do we do in the meantime? And these are like, climate changes won't happen like if we decide to, all come together and make deep and drastic cuts, that this type of things. Typhoon.
What we're doing as the My Shelter Foundation is not actually giving people fish. It's teaching the Filipino people how to fish and how to uplift themselves and take themselves to the higher level.
Well, you could say that, but really what I'm trying to do is just change the whole fishing industry. So it's not just giving them bricks and then building square, metal frame. Old designs that have been since around the 1960s, whether self-help. It's really not mass housing that we're trying to do, but we're trying to say is what is the customized housing that we have to build for the future. And will the materials be so expensive to bring over there that it will cheapen and cheapen itself for the future, not respecting the fact that the great challenge ahead is the climate change. Will this kind of houses stand up to stronger winds? Will this kind of houses be, since the materials are getting more expensive, will it be smaller, hotter? Will it take more energy to run it? And the worst part there is, as people are so focused on the numbers of building post-disaster, which is just build as many, you're not thinking,
how our mindset is.
Yeah, you're not thinking at the fact that first of all we'll have to, these things have to be put on lands that will have. What I'm saying is, maybe you have to build higher.
Those people who have already built their houses in the flood submerged areas, especially in Rizal, Marikina. So what do we do?
Well, this is really the fact about, how land development has been left to, people that just develop. I mean, the absorptive capacity of these areas have been really taken down. And then the second one here is really the fact that, they were not supposed to be built there in the first place. So these developers, a lot of these developers, what they did is during the floods, they just gave handouts, but not really thinking is what was the cost of their having to do those mistakes in the first place. And second is,
so what present projects that My Shelter Foundation is busy with?
So in the rural areas, we saw that the place of refuge where everybody runs to in case of calamity are schools. So a school which is used for, a
so
place.
We're showing what we're showing now?
Right now we're using old Spanish technology through architect Nadhir Khalili, our consultant.
Okay.
How to use soil under their feet, rice sack, and barbed wire to build this kind of disaster resilient schools that can withstand 300 km/h winds. I mean, that's just overdoing, but it's just to show that, the purest form that we can do to help people in the future, especially as I said, the whole Eastern Seaboard, is to give them the technology for them to build by themselves. Remember, no NGO, no international institution can help people all at the same time, but people, given the right knowledge, can help themselves in preparing for the future.
Yeah.
Or else the only alternative they have is to build out of cocoa lumber, out of, if you don't give them any kind of
indigenous
materials, they'll just say, why do we have to build better? Let's just build the same way that will be destroyed anyway in the future. What I'm saying is no. Maybe we can use old forgotten technologies like, the way that the Spanish constructed. Maybe we can use bamboos in areas
going back to the basics.
Back to the basics. But because the fact that it's replicable, people can do it. And the thing there is, the purest form of charity is that NGOs will make themselves obsolete. Which means that the people themselves, whether NGO is there or not, will be able to build their own shelters for the future.
Wow, what I saw.
The bamboo schools, through a grant of El Rey Villafuerte and the council government, they built the winning design of our 2008 winner, Elena Jamil. And basically, this comes out of a global competition.
So this is the bamboo.
Yeah, this is the bamboo school that it costs the same, but at the same as the Dex classroom. But we're incorporating indigenous technology,
which is better,
into it, learning how to treat it, learning how to cut it, learning how to design with it. I think the big problem here really was the fact that we went so much into the Western concept of design that we completely forgot our traditional way of building, which is still in the grassroots, which is bamboo is still used by majority of the rural households.
Yes, I still see bamboo houses in Quezon province.
I know.
Right?
So the point is, why do we keep on investing in expensive materials when majority of the people are really poor? Wouldn't it be great if we start investing in this kind of indigenous technologies that can uplift the lifestyles, and when they get more money, then build out of cement, steel, and glass?
Yes.
What you're saying is maybe that segment of the market has been forgotten, with this kind of westernized kind of thought. But more urgent for me is the fact that climate change is coming, and these houses and these schools are bomb shelters. It's where everybody runs to in case of emergency. So,
but you know what? Indigenous materials and indigenous architecture somehow is perceived as second class.
Right.
Especially by Filipino people. Why do you think so?
Well, the fact that at that time, I think the way that the materials was used, like for bahay kubos, they were squat. They were you're not really making it look like the next step. It doesn't look middle class. So right, but what if the thing there is we did not put enough investment in those technologies to show that they can look really fantastic. Like if you go to Mexico, the adobe houses are actually pang mayaman, not pang mahirap. Those places are built really well. I mean, these adobe structures are beautiful. In fact, there are whole resorts made out of them.